Well, welcome to the last Sunday in January. Is that not weird to say? And I don't know about you, but I'm ready for spring. I'm ready for this cold weather to get out of here. Did anybody see pictures of like the beaches full with snow? I mean, that's just crazy. My wife is from Lake Charles. 8 inches of snow is what they got, and it's over 100 years that they haven't got that. So just crazy the amount of weather we've seen in the past couple weeks, but glad that you are here this morning as we end our series called Habits. If you got our worship guide this morning, I want to encourage you to get that out. On the back of that is a place where you can follow along and take notes. And I want to encourage you to do that, and as you're doing that, man, isn't it great to celebrate life change this morning? So encouraging to see people say yes to Jesus Christ, but also to say, I need to take my next step in baptism. And maybe that's you this morning. Maybe you grew up in church and your baptism is on the wrong side of your salvation. And maybe you're here this morning and you've never put your faith and trust in Jesus Christ. Our prayer this morning is that God speaks to you in a fresh and powerful way. A couple of things I want to announce in your worship guide. You should see this, but next Sunday is something what we're calling King's Academy Sunday. Our church has a partnership with a hybrid school, the upper campus, called King's Academy. They meet on our campus in our facilities 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And it's an incredible partnership where these students are not just learning things of life, but they're getting foundation in God's Word. They have chapel in this room every Thursday, and it's a Christian-based hybrid school and just an amazing partnership. But a lot of times of what you hear is by what Pastor Franklin tells you or what I tell you. And it's not really a visual. And so as we're thinking of different things and bringing all things throughout the conversation, we decided to make a King's Academy Sunday. So next Sunday, you're going to hear from stage, you're going to have these high school students lead you in worship. And let me tell you, it's incredible. And then Dr. Glover, the headmaster of their school, is going to preach. And so what a great visual of the partnership of our church. And I want to encourage you to be here. It's going to be a packed service. And then February 9th, I don't know if you remember us doing this last year, but we called it Super Sunday at Southside. It's an incredible, just fun environment day where we bring a professional football player on stage and we have a Q&A with him to talk about football, faith, and family. And he shares his story of how Jesus Christ has changed his life and the obstacles that he faced, and having a firm foundation on who he is, what paved the way for his life. And it's just incredible to hear that from a professional athlete. And so it's a fun day. There's no life groups that day. We all serve, and it's a community outreach day. Last year, we were averaging about 145 in worship. And on that day, during an ice scare, I don't know if you remember that day, we had a little under 270 people. And so my prayer and the leader's prayer is that we have 400 people on that day. And so we want to encourage you to bring a friend. We want to encourage you to bring a family member. Maybe that's far from God. Maybe that's a skeptic in the relationship with God. But they're going to be here because of just the environment of what that day looks like. There's free food. There's giveaways. Come as you are. Wear a jersey. I'm going to wear a Minnesota Vikings jersey, although we never will ever go to the Super Bowl again. It's going to be fun to wear that jersey. And so, but especially Cowboys fans, we all know where you're at right now, so I don't have to go there. But it's going to be an incredible day, February 9th. So the next 2 weeks, mark your calendars, be in the room, invite a friend. We pray that you're healthy and that you're in town. But today, we're ending our series called Habits that we started a couple of weeks ago. Sean Covey said this: our habits will make us or break us. We become what we repeatedly do. It's not one small habit that changes everything, but it's one small habit over time changes your life, whether good or bad. And we've been walking through the power of a habit. If you missed the past couple of weeks, we started with that right there, the power of a habit. And how many times we fail at this every single year with goals, New Year's resolutions. I want to change who I want to become. And we end up not doing it because of several reasons. Number one, we focus on the what and not the how. Goals don't determine success. Systems determine success. What are you doing to achieve the results that you want to obtain? We learned that we fail because we don't see progress fast enough. You know, if you're like me, I want it now. We just live in that culture. And so when we don't see it, when we want it, we say, you know what, it's not real, or I'm throwing in the towel, and we quit. And then lastly, the enemy distorts our identity. You know, if you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, the enemy has no authority over your life. He can remind you of your past, bring you doubt of who you are, but Jesus says you are who I created you to be. You're a son and daughter of the Most High King. And if He identifies who you are, no one else can do likewise. You're a son and daughter of Him. Who do you want to become? And when you figure out who you want to become, the next steps becomes a whole lot easier. Last week, if you're here, we talked about how to start a good habit. We have to make it obvious. If you want to change what you do in life, you must change what you see. And we've got to make it easy. I don't know if you remember the habit loop that we brought on the screen. It's very, Leadership 101. This is nothing that you hear from me in this series is going to be something that it's original idea from Pastor David. Okay? This is something over time that the books I've read, the leadership conferences that I've been to, it shaped and molded me to the person that I am today. And I don't know if you were here last week, but I revealed some habits, small habits that I wanted to do, and I appreciate your judgment on those things, okay? All right? I hear you naysayers out there that when I said I'm going to, write a letter of encouragement and appreciation to my wife every single day, I heard the doubters. Okay? And you told my wife that it was going to be 3 days and I was going to quit. All right? I see the faith that you had in me. But I will tell you, it's only been a week. But every single day, I wrote a letter or a note of appreciation or encouragement to my wife. Not well done. It's only been a week. I hate notes. I hate cards, but my wife does, which means I need to. Okay? If you want to change what you do, you got to change what you see. And so today, we're ending our series on probably the most influential or powerful one. It's time to stop. It's time to stop. What bad habits do you have in your life that you need to remove? For some of you, it's simple. It's as simple as biting your fingernails. Or it's as large as being addicted to something. But no one plans or has a desire to get a divorce after you marry the person you love. Now, I don't expect Kyler to say to Blair in just a couple of weeks, hey, Blair, I love you, and we're going to do this for about 2 or 3 years, but then we're going to get a divorce. Like, no one says that. No one has a desire for that. No one has a passion for that. But yet 60% of people and 80% of the people get a divorce within the first 5 years. No one says, I want to be addicted to alcohol, drugs, or painkillers. No one says, you know what, I want to be overweight. I want to have poor health, which leads me to dying at a young age. No one sits there and has a desire to have a mediocre life. No passion, no drive, no vision. I just want to go through the motions. Nobody sits there and says, I want to do those things. And rarely does anybody end up in a place they are because of one bad choice, but a result of one bad choice repeatedly that leads to a different life. One sentence stories. We hear a lot of these. I'll give you a couple, and you can probably share about 5 or 6 in your own life. But one sentence stories. She cheated on him, and so 2 years they got a divorce. Right? You've heard these before. Well, my dad was stressed and overweight, so he died of a massive heart attack. One sentence stories that just, you say something and you just fill in the blank because you know that's the road it's heading on. And in Scripture, we see a man that had a lot of opportunity and possibility with God. But not just one bad decision. Didn't end up getting to where he needed to go. But multiple bad decisions repeatedly chased him away from the presence of God and ended up changing his life. And so this morning, if you have your Bibles, I want you to turn to the book of Judges. Yes, that is a real book in the Bible. All right? Judges, if you don't know where that's at, you can find out in the table of contents. The book of Judges. Talk about a one-sentence story. How about this story of the man that we're going to look at by the name of Samson? Judges 16 is where we're going to be at, verse 1. It says this, Samson went to Gaza, and there he saw a prostitute. The end. Talk about a one-sentence story, right? Samson went to Gaza, and there he saw a prostitute. What happened? Well, there's a lot of things we might assume, but there's a lot of detail and context that's not in these few verses, and I want to share with you of why this is such a big deal. Gaza is what's called the Philistine headquarters. Public enemy number 1 to a guy named Samson. Samson lived in a place called Zorah. It was his hometown. Now, from Zorah to Gaza is 25 miles. So Samson went to Gaza, which is a place that wanted him dead. He was risking his own life. If he came, they wanted to kill him. They wanted to destroy him. They wanted to tear his dignity, his passion, his strength, all of those things. He was the public enemy number 1. So Samson from Zorah went 25 miles to Gaza to risk his life. Why? Because he saw a prostitute. Now, I don't think Samson woke up on a Monday morning and said, you know what? I feel like going to lunch at Gaza. They want me dead. They want to kill me. Should be nice. But it was a result of what you see, the triggers that reflect action and response that we're going to get into, that ultimately led to him drastically changing his life and ultimately the presence of God leaving him. Day after day, bad decision after bad decision led Samson to lose his dignity, strength, and presence of the Lord. Look what it says in verse 16. Just a few verses up. And when she pressed him hard with her words day after day, bad decision after bad decision, day after day after day. Okay? If that happens, the first day she'll probably leave and probably not come back. Ultimately, number 1, they want you dead. Ultimately, number 2, she's a prostitute. But day after day, she pressed him hard and urged him. You are what you repeatedly do. And she urged him. And listen, His soul was vexed. How do you like that word? Vexed. His soul was vexed to death. Samson, who had power, who had strength, who had an opportunity, who had the presence of God. But one bad decision over time, one bad habit over time, radically changed who he was. I was a senior year in high school, my senior year in high school. For some of you, I've shared this before, but others that are new, I had 4 youth pastors in 4 years. Thank you, Franklin, for staying 4 years. I had a relationship with all of my youth pastors, but my senior year, I had a really strong relationship with my youth pastor. Senior year, I was 18 years old. God was molding and shaping me to become in full-time ministry, and I was struggling with that call. Nobody in my family has been a pastor before. I didn't know what that looked like, and my senior year youth pastor really was that mentor, that man that shaped me to who I am today. And I firmly believe that one of the reasons I'm here today is because of that youth pastor. Great relationship with him. And in fact, even on a deeper level, one of our twins named Eli is a direct correlation of his son named Eli. But the first year when I went into full-time ministry, I had an opportunity to go be an associate at my home church, and I decided not to do it. I decided to go to another church, which eventually led me to meet my wife. And God was in the center of it, but I struggled with that call. In that first year of being a youth pastor at this church, I got a phone call. I remember exactly what it was. I remember exactly what I was doing, and it was a good buddy of mine, and he said, your youth pastor, I'm not going to mention his name, but your youth pastor, he fell from ministry and he got fired today. And ultimately, it's because he got caught in a prostitution sting in a hotel. Over the course of months, I got to talk to him, and we still have a relationship today. But he ultimately told me, he said, David, it wasn't because of one bad decision. It was a multitude of bad decisions that led me to a place that I had no idea I would end up. His community, his friends left him. He felt alone. His wife was battling a disease. They had a bad relationship. He started looking at pornography. It was one bad decision day after day that ultimately led him to a path that he had no idea where he would be. Bad habits can change your life. The question I've been asking you every single week is this. I've been asking myself, who do you want to become? Who do you want to become? I want to become a godly man that has Jesus at the center of his life. I want to be a devoted husband and father to 3 boys that doesn't miss moments in life, that quickly escape it. And I want to be a devoted pastor that's faithful to a place of grace called Southside Baptist Church. When you know who you want to become, it's easier to navigate where you want to go. So the question this morning is this. When dealing with time to stop, based on who you want to become, what habit do you need to break? Last week we talked about what do you need to start. And we walked through, you want to make it obvious. You want to change what you do, you got to change what you see. We got to make it easy. But today, it's not like that. Today's on a new level. Based on who you want to become, what do you need to break? I love what it says in James 1:21, but I want to read a different translation. This is called the Good News translation. It says this, so get rid of every filthy what? Habit. Get rid of every filthy habit and all wicked conduct. Submit to God and accept the word that he plants in your hearts, which is able to save you. Get rid of every filthy habit, everything wicked. Submit to God and run to the race he has given you. And so this morning, how do you break bad habits? All of us have them. Maybe you're saying, David, I got 30. I want to break them all. You know, start small. We'll get there. But how do you break bad habits? The first thing I want you to write down is you have to acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge it. You cannot defeat what you cannot define. For some of you are thinking, oh, it's a genetic thing. My whole family struggles with this. It's a family thing. I've always done this. This is who I am. No, you're not. You can have victory over sin and bad habits in your life. But the first thing you have to do is you have to acknowledge it. You have to define what that bad habit is in order to have victory over it. Define it. For some of you, it's your attitude. You have a bad attitude. You say, David, I'm just real. No, you're not. You're a complainer. And you're grumpy. For some of you, you got a critical spirit. You gossip. You lie. For some of you, you're addicted to your phone. Take it a step further. You're addicted to drugs. You're addicted to alcohol. You have an addiction to lust and pornography. And so on and so on and so on. It's not one habit. It's not one choice. It's one bad habit, day after day, time after time, moment after moment, ends up leading you to a place that you have no idea where you'd be. You are consistently what you do. So how do we break bad habits? We've got to acknowledge it. We have to define it. And just like we looked at last week in the habit loop, and we got to, if we want to start things, we got to make it obvious, we got to make it easy, but it's the absolute opposite of breaking bad habits. We have to make it difficult to do. It's not obvious, it's not easy. It's easy to start things for a period of time. But to break bad habits, it has to be difficult. Look what it says in Proverbs 4. Do not enter the path of the wicked. Do not enter. And do not walk in the way of evil. Avoid it. Avoid it. Do not go on it. Turn away from it and pass on. Flee from it. Make it difficult for you not to do it. And I want to bring up that habit loop again. We launched this last week. This is not a David thing. This is a Leadership 101. You can Google and find this thing, okay? It's in several books. But you have your trigger, which leads to your action, which leads to your reward. Your mind sees things and triggers them to action or response. It's like what it says in Romans. You want to be transformed by the good news of Jesus Christ? By the renewing of your mind. You have to change what you see, which ultimately reflects what you do. And there's several triggers that your mind sees, then leads you to action, then leads you to the reward or the pleasure that you want and desire for your life. And bad habits and sin can be pleasurable. They can. I believe the many reasons why people fall into sin and bad habits is because they see the pleasure in front of them instead of the consequences. No one at the end of life says, you know what? This is exactly where I wanted to end up. Divorced, separated from my kids, addicted to painkillers, have no friends. But they see the pleasure in the habits instead of the consequences. Let me give you an example, a very real life example. If I left church today on the way home, I just live a couple of minutes up the road, but nobody's perfect, everybody speeds, okay? We listen, we do not judge, all right? So I am speeding and I rush to get home. But listen, if I knew there was a cop right by Fresh on my way home, would I speed? Most likely not. Because I see the consequence in front of me. And it's the same concept with bad habits and sin in our life. And so to stop or break a habit, we've got to remove the trigger. We have to remove the trigger, and we've got to interrupt the action. Remove the trigger and interrupt the action. There's 5 triggers, they say, that cause bad habits and sin in your life. And I look at my life and I say this is 100% true. And this morning I'm going to kind of just be real and open on some of them and just some past experiences. But 5 things that cause triggers for you to make bad habits. And I'm going to read all of them to you and we're going to walk them through. Number 1, place. Number 2, time. Number 3, your mood. Don't tell me you don't eat that bowl of ice cream when you're lonely. Your moments. And people. They say these 5 triggers is a result of the bad habits that you have in life. And I think it's 100% true. And so let's just walk with them. Place. A couple years ago, I had a student, was an amazing baseball player. I had the opportunity to be a chaplain of this high school baseball team, number 1 baseball team in the country. They had 11 players go play college ball. And when I say college ball, I mean LSU, Texas A&M, like the big dog schools. And so this guy was an incredible, one of the best shortstops in the state. Had a full ride scholarship to Louisiana Lafayette. And he was a very popular kid in school. Had an amazing girlfriend. They've been dating for several years. And by the grace of God, Jesus changed his life. He was baptized on a Sunday morning, and he was wanting to grow closer to Christ. And so I was discipling him once a week. We'd go to a donut shop. We'd get in God's Word. We'd read books. You know, I would hang out with him. He would come over during draft nights and football games, and I was discipling this student. And he said to me, David, I'm struggling with this, and I can't get out of it. And I continue to have sex with my girlfriend. I don't want to. I know it's not good. I know I need to wait till I'm married. I know what God says. I want to continue to run in what Jesus says for me to do. But I just can't get it out. I can't run from it. I can't break it. And so we started to look at the triggers. We started to look at the place. And I said, well, where do you typically struggle in this location or in this thing? And he said, every probably 3-4 days a week, we go to my girlfriend's dad's house. They're separated, and we go to her dad's house, and we end up being alone all the time. I said, that's it. You got to interrupt and catch the trigger and interrupt the action. So don't be alone with her. Don't spend time with her at your dad's house. Go to the park. Go to a restaurant. Go on double dates. Be in public as much as you can, because when you make it difficult to do, you interrupt the action. And so when you're alone at your girlfriend's dad's house, your mind is triggered to the action and the reward that you want. But if you interrupt it, you can break the bad habit. Place. Time. When does this habit typically take place? Well, I'm addicted to my phone and I can't sleep well at night, and I look at social media 2 hours a night before I go to bed. Or I have an addiction to pornography and I look at it at night when I have my phone and I'm alone. And so time and place, you need to get a old school alarm clock and put your phone, charge it in the kitchen where you don't have it. You have to make it difficult to do. Is it worth it? Absolutely. You look at a man after God's own heart named David. Struggled with an affair with Bathsheba. Where was David supposed to be? in war. And he found himself at the wrong place at the wrong time that led to the bad habit and desire and reward for his life. I believe the enemy works the best in two ways. Number one, you're alone. God created you for community, not isolation. And he will get you alone to bite the bait that he has for your life. And number two, you're at the wrong place at the wrong time. Mood. You're hungry, you're angry, you're lonely. People. We did a series on this. You are the average of your 5 what? Closest friends. Studies show you imitate habits of your closest friends. Look what it says in Proverbs 13:20. Walk with the wise and you become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. You need to get friends and people around you, your life, based on who you want to become. If you want to become a good father, your 5 closest friends need to be people that are great dads. That you see something in their life that you want to imitate and follow. And some of you have bad habits because the people that are close to you in your life, they're doing the things that you don't want to do, but you're doing because you're around their circle. You can write this down. It's almost impossible to live the right life with the wrong friends. Those 5 triggers: people, time, mood, moments. All those trigger bad habits and sin in your life. 1 Corinthians 15 verse 33 says, do not be misled, because bad company corrupts good character. So the question I have for you this morning is this: the habits you have today will shape who you want to become tomorrow. Good habits or bad habits? The habits you have today will shape who you want to become tomorrow. So the question is this: do you like the direction your habits are taking you? Do you like the habits that are taking you? Because they're taking you one way or the other. Whether it's an intent or by default, you think. It's purposely taking you in one direction. So based on who you want to become, are they taking you in that direction? And here's just a default thing to think about. Play your life moving forward. I wish I had spent more time with my kids. Can I be very honest with you? If something were to happen to me, Southside's going to find a new pastor. And probably a better one. But my wife and kids are going to be the ones that suffer. Play your life forward. What does that look like? If only I had forgiven him or her. There's some people maybe in your family that you've had a grudge on, that just because of whatever situation or circumstance, you said, I'm not forgiving them. I don't want to talk to them. Well, Jesus said to forgive 7 times 70, which is impossible. Maybe you need to forgive somebody this morning. Well, I wish I never have started that. Well, you have the power to stop it today. Remove the trigger and interrupt the action. Make it difficult to do. David, that's hard. You're right, it is. But when you're weak, he's strong. Christ in me is stronger than the wrong habits in my life. And I want you to see this, and we're going to respond this morning. Never underestimate how God can start something special. A new year. New me. Things I need to start, things I need to stop. Never underestimate how God can start something special in your life. Zechariah 4:10 says this: do not despise these small beginnings. They're small. David, they can't honestly add up to much. No, they can. Small habits over time will get the results that you want to achieve. Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. This morning in your worship guide and when you came in, you should have received a card. I want you to get that card out. That card simply says this. Today, not tomorrow. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. No, you'll do it today. It's time to stop today. If you want God to be in your tomorrow, it's got to be right here, right now. Today. Today, I will stop. You fill in the blank. Only you can answer that question. You have to acknowledge it. To destroy it, to defeat it, you have to define it. Your spouse can't define that for you. Your kids can't define that for you. Maybe it's that obvious. But what's in your life? What bad habit do you have that you need to lay down this morning? You need to lay it down and you need to say, God, your way is better. I need to run more to you, but I need to respond and acknowledge it and interrupt my action, my response to it. And I'm going to start today. And this morning, we're going to respond in a little different way than what we used to. Well, David, why are you doing this? Because here's the thing. You want to change what you do, you have to change what you see. You have to change how you move. You have to change how you respond. And I'm just going to be honest with you. Some people come into this room, they sit in the same seat every single time. They do the same thing over and over again, but yet they want different results for their life. And listen, I'm stepping on my toes this morning. What are you doing that's different? Then you're going to continue to get the results that you want. Well, I got to get out of my comfort zone. Yeah, you do. You have to make it difficult. You have to make it difficult. If you want to break a bad habit, you got to make it difficult. And this morning, during our first service, we had a powerful moment with our older congregation. That they wrote down things that they need to stop. And what they did as a symbol is they brought them to this stage and said, you know what, I'm laying it down. I'm laying it down. I'm not picking it back up. But I'm walking out these doors in freedom, because freedom is only found in Jesus Christ. And for some of you, you need to do that exact same thing. We're going to sing a new song this morning that eventually is going to be in our worship night set list next week, and I want to encourage you to come to. But it says that same thing. I am laying it down. Why am I laying it down? Why am I laying down the bad habits? Why am I laying down the sin? Why am I laying down my flesh? Because your way is better. Jesus is better. And if you want more of Jesus, it's more of Him and less of you. And it's time for us to acknowledge it and to move in its response towards it. And maybe for you, something you need to start today is you need to say yes to Jesus Christ for the very first time. You walk into this room just like all of us as sinners. All of us are sinner. All of us sin. All of us have shame. All of us has a past. And the only thing that puts you in right standing with Christ is the moment that you say, I'm a sinner and I'm in need of a Savior. I need Jesus Christ to change my life. He's the only one that can do it. I can't do it. I can't go to church enough. I can't pray enough. I can't get baptized enough. But I get baptized because Jesus Christ lives in my life. And for some of you, you walk into this room and you've never had a real encounter with Christ. I don't care what you do, that starts with that thing. That's the main thing, and that's the foundational thing, and that's what starts. And for you, maybe that's you this morning. You need to say yes to Christ. And maybe you're here this morning, just like me, just like all of us. What do you need to lay down this morning?
Where I lay it down, every burden, every crown. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down, every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. And I will make room for you. Whatever you want to do whatever you want to, and I will make room for you to do whatever you want.